Welcome back to Survival on Purpose. My name is Brian. Thanks for joining me. This video is going to be about the Schrade SCHF35. Charles, this one's for you. Okay, so first of all, let me say that Schrade was kind enough to send me this so I could show it to you. Again, this is the SCHF35 and really cool looking little knife. Definitely a little different, but my first impression is it feels really good. Really good in your hand. It's not a huge handle, not a huge knife. Kind of a compact little recurve, but it definitely, it's got potential. So we're going to take it. Let me show you the close-ups here and talk about the specs real quick, and then we'll do some of that knife stuff. Okay, once again, this is the Schrade SCHF35. This knife features a 3.4-inch blade of 8CR13 MOV steel in a stone wash finish and a drop point recurve blade shape. Has G10 handle scales with an index finger groove and a lanyard hole. Also comes with a multi-carry option kydex belt sheath with grommet holes. The overall length of this knife is 8 inches and the weight is 7 ounces. This knife has a really nice sheath. It's a kydex sheath. Now this sheath actually snaps in really good. It's not going to come out of there. It's in there really nicely. It's got the reversible and rotatable belt loop on back. So you got these two Phillips heads here. You can rotate this thing around either side you want and make it a scout carry, or you can make it left or right handed. So that's a nice little feature. It's got a nice thumb push ramp off here. It's nothing fancy, but it's a very serviceable kydex sheath. The other thing I want to show you, these handles, it's got like these hollow Chicago screws to hold the handle scales on with really nice scalloped kind of G10 handles. The fit and finish is really good. Got the exposed tang with the lanyard hole in it. You can also use this for whatever you use exposed tangs for, crushing tinder or breaking nuts. And then it's got a little bit of jimping right here on the back. Not really aggressive at all. It's definitely not too aggressive. And of course, it's got the Schrade, I won't call it patented, but definitely the Schrade recurve. They really like the recurves. A little bit of a finger guard here and a finger notch. It just, it's not a really large handle, but it actually fits my hand really well and feels really comfortable. I like the stone wash finish, and it's got kind of a pretty aggressive little belly right here. So let's take a look now and see what kind of performance this thing does on some of that knife stuff. It's getting more and more difficult to find really something different or interesting to do in a knife review. I know everybody's tired of seeing the same old thing. They're tired of, baton and you carve feathers, you do a little chopping and make a fire. And honestly, that's what I do every time almost. But so on the one hand, you want to be interesting, but on the other hand, those are the tasks that you're going to do with a knife for the most part. So you want to make sure that every knife, at least I want to make sure every knife I review is up to those tasks. So I got something that's pretty dry here. Oh yeah, it's really dry. I think this is cedar. Let's see. Yeah, it's cedar. See the end of it? So let's take a piece of that and see what we can do with it. Now, it's not a chopper, but we always baton stuff and split it. So let's just try doing a little chopping behind it. Because it's probably going to be more realistic of what you might have to do in, a survival or emergency type situation. And let's face it, honestly, as far as chopping and batoning goes, this is probably harder on a blade than splitting, because basically once you get into the grain and kind of get where you're going and get started, then that's really, you're not even putting any pressure on the edge. You're just honestly, all you're doing is just the knife becomes a wedge. Try to hold it in place with my knee here while I was thinking that this the fatter portion here might be better for batoning with, but I've got to get it to stay where it's at. And it just wants to ride back down to this recurve, which is fine. If that's what it does, that's what it wants to do, we'll let it do what it wants to do. But and then we got a little gap between the wood here, so it's absorbing a bunch of that. But at this point in time, if I'm in the real world, I'm gonna break it. So again, this is cedar, pretty tough stuff. Thought we'd go ahead and see what kind of, if it does any, what kind of carbon it does, because this is, again, some pretty hard wood here. But this is, all right, well, it's already starting to split, so we might as well just finish it, right? Okay, and you can see the inside of this, so it's kind of starting to dry out, but maybe we can get some feathers out of it. I've never had really a lot of luck with cedar feathers. This edge is also, I'm gonna call this a hollow grind. So I definitely think it's a hollow ground edge. If I can get past this very outer core of really dry, crumbly wood, I might be able to get some feathers out of this. I don't know. I can get the feathers, I just can't make them stay on the stick. I'm getting down to the not as weathered wood. You know, the outer little layer here, where it's been out exposed to the elements, is kind of really dry. So once you get into this good wood, though, it feathers really nicely. So we got a nice little pile here. One of the things Charles wanted me to check was to see if it would strike a ferro rod. He said he didn't really see anybody do that. So I'm gonna try to get some really, really fine shavings here. We'll see if it'll scrape wood at all. Doesn't seem to scrape the wood very well. But doesn't mean it won't scrape a ferro rod. Let me see if I can get some really fine ones here to hit with a ferro rod. Try to get some really fine ones here and see if we can get a ferro rod to strike it. Charles actually wanted me to test this with a ferro rod. Said he hadn't really seen anybody do that. And so that was one of his requests for me. So Charles, we're going to do that in just a minute. I'm trying to get some really, really fine little shavings here to see what happens. I'll be honest with you, I'm not really, really optimistic about this spine on this knife. It's not really, it doesn't feel very, very sharp to me, to be honest, to my thumb. But sometimes, you know, I've been surprised before, and I'm willing to be surprised again, but I'm not, again, not overly optimistic, to be honest with you. Trying to get some super, this thing really does, is carving out some really, I don't know if you can see that, I've tried this thing close up, but it's carving some really, really fine little shavings here. Let me see if I can close you up even closer. Okay, well that should be good. Either it's going to work or it's not. So let me pull you back just enough where you can see this ferro rod, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so this is the ferro rod I made from, this is from firesteel.com, the ferro rod is. So I don't know, I think it's kind of a hard one, but I don't know that much about them. But first let's just see. Okay, not that great. If you hit the jimping here, seems to do a little better, but it's not what I would consider great, to be honest with you. I can't really seem to find a good spot on it. And this is a good knife. I mean, this is a good ferro rod. Because I usually would put it down and do this, you know, but it's not doing anything now. I mean, I can't really get it to do anything without knocking into my tender. And that's just the way I do it. People say pull it back. Well, I'm just going to tell you, you're not getting anywhere pulling this back. It's not going to work. You got to have a sharp enough spine to do that, and this is not. So best we can try to do is Okay, it took it a minute, but it did it. But man, it didn't do it great, to be honest with you. Come on, burn, baby, burn. Maybe to run some of these mosquitoes off. This is crazy out here, man. These mosquitoes are absolutely crazy out here. I think maybe mosquitoes like barking dogs. Maybe that's all I can figure. Okay, so anyway, Charles, it did it, got the job done, but it really, really needs to be sharpened. I would not consider that a raging success. Oh, by the way, just to show you there's no shenanigans going on here, with the Ferro Rod itself, got a different knife, and so the Ferro Rod works. And this has got a really sharp spine on it. Nothing wrong with the Ferro Rod. Okay, as you saw, did a pretty good job on carving. It's you can take a look at the edge here. Did some batoning, cross grain batoning on some pretty tough cedar. Did not damage the edge at all. It's still got a really nice edge on it. Schrade is doing a really good job on edges last year or so at least. Handle's very comfortable. It did okay with carving. I have to tell you that got a little bit of play in the handle here from, I think that probably came from me calibrating my balance equipment here, but it happens. But it's not a big deal to tighten up. You got a big screwdriver on this side and an Allen wrench on this side. And the one drawback I think is it did not do exceptional. Actually, it did, let's just be honest, it did pretty poorly with a Ferro Rod. It does not have a 90-degree spine worth of flip on it. That can certainly be fixed with a couple of minutes with a file or a Dremel. I mean, I was able to get a fire with it, but it was definitely not easy. It just didn't do as what I would like it to do anyway, what I would consider a really good job on a Ferro Rod fire steel. So last final test I want to do, I think hopefully I've got my testing apparatus calibrated properly. We can check the balance on this thing. I think it's going to be pretty good. The balance is about the midpoint. It's actually a little handle heavy, which is good for some tasks and not for others. Okay, well, pretty well balanced. That kind of concludes this test of the SCHF35. Charles, I hope this has been helpful to you. Again, I guess kind of to recap this, it's got a really comfortable handle. I didn't find any hot spots in it. It fits really well. Does a great job of carving. It is exceptionally well balanced, both in this testing and in actual use. I gotta say, I like this little knife. I wish the spine was sharper, but you know what? That's not a big deal. You can file this thing down in about probably 2 minutes and have a really good striker for it. But other than that, you have a really useful knife. It just fits. It feels good in your hand. To me, that's one of the biggest things about a knife is how it feels. It just feels really useful. So, and it's got a nice sheath. Once again, I'd like to thank the folks at Schrade for sending me this so I could show it to you. It's the SCHF35. I like the stonewash finish too. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching Survival on Purpose. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for clicking that like button and for sharing it with your friends. Thanks for watching those ads and clicking those Amazon links. I really appreciate it. It really helps the channel. Once again, my name is Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival is not an accident, so be prepared. See you next time.